Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Gel Press YouTube. Today we're going to be playing with 3 resist techniques that you can use on your gel press plates to make cool and just fun prints. So our first one is going to be the Vaseline technique. I'm going to start by just making just a really pretty print with some bright colors. For this you can really use any kind of medium that you normally would use. I happen to be using an acrylic paint that's kind of a medium body, but like I said, you can use any kind of acrylic paint you would normally use. And for this is basically going to become my background of my print. So it's just nothing texture, I guess you could, but for this purpose I just kept it really easy. And then I'm also of course going to take my my ghost print off because clean plate, and I have a print for later. And now I'm going to take my dry print, put it down, and place a large stencil over it. And then just with my finger, I'm just going to just smear, for lack of a better word, petroleum jelly all over my exposed print. This you do need to be a little bit careful with, because if you rub it, particularly if there's big points, you could pull it. And then once you've got enough on there, just take a baby wipe and just gently remove some of it so that you have just a small layer of petroleum jelly left. And you can see it leaves that great little imprint on there. And now we're going to make another print. Since my background is pinks and purples, I wanted my next print to be contrasting, so I'm using kind of a dark blue and a black for this one. This would be a fun place also to add some texture, but again, I didn't this time. So I'm just going to take my print that I put my petroleum jelly image onto, just flat on it. I'm not going to press it down really hard. You can see it's right there. And it left an image, so I'm going to take my other ghost print and use that to lift this ghost print. So I'm getting all sorts of fun prints from this one project. What I need to do is to let my first image completely the paint dry. And now that it's completely dry and you can see, I'm just going to take a wet baby wipe and just wipe over the image. And it's going to remove any of those spots that had that petroleum jelly on it, and just give me just a really pretty and crisp image between my stenciled image and my background image. All right, now we're going to try it a different way, and I actually found while I was playing with this that I like this technique more. So I'm going to go and do the same thing and just make a background with just some acrylic paint and use kind of a stacked, I don't know, color block kind of pattern for this particular background. And I'm just putting my copy paper over it, doing my usual, give it a nice little rub. This is going to be my background color, so again, I'm not adding texture to it because I wanted to keep that solid color, and you'll see why here in just a little bit. So I'm just going to get my ghost print off and save that for later. All right, and then I went and grabbed a small gel press plate. This is the circle, and I used a scraper to add some petroleum jelly. Always make sure your base print is completely dry before you do this particular next step. And again, we're going to take our print, or our stencil. This time I'm using an octopus underwater, and I'm actually going to use my brayer to just brayer over it. I find this is actually better than using your finger after kind of playing with it, because you're less likely to pick up those little images and move your stencil around and that kind of stuff. Plus, it keeps your hands from getting gross. There you go. You can see that just a little bit. And now we're going to do the exact same technique that we did last time, where I'm going to do a contrasting color scheme print. Just a little tip, whatever you want to call it, for removing the petroleum jelly off of any of your stencils or your brayer and stuff. Just add a little bit of just alcohol, and use a paper towel or a cotton ball or something like that, and it'll help break up that petroleum jelly and allow you to lift that up. So you can see I've taken my print and put it on top of my blue, and I'm going to do the same thing I did last time and just allow that to completely dry while I lift my ghost print up and save that for later. All right, and now we're going to do the exact same thing again. I'm just going to take my baby wipe, and all those those spots where my petroleum jelly were, will just lift off, and you can see my graduated background going from the purple to the pink to the green, just really pops against the blue that I used as kind of my underwater background. I can't wait to turn that into some kind of really cool journaling page. So here's a couple of stills in close-up so you can get a better idea of what it kind of looks like. So you can see the gradation and the texture and all that kind of fun stuff. This one is very simple because it's just that one stagnant pattern, but I thought it's a good thing to try and play with. All right, let's move on to the next technique. This one is the magazine resist technique. So for this one, I found that it's always best to use a dark color for your first color and keep that first print or first layer very light. I like to use an extra piece of paper just to smooth it down so I don't move my my magazine paper. And this requires some practice and some patience, definitely. And it definitely is very picky about what kind of magazine you choose to use. I tried a cookbook one, I tried a National Geographic, and I really found that only using, oh, I love the way that one turned out, using a very high gloss, very contrasted image, like those you would find, this one happens to be a Harper's Bazaar, so in like a fashion magazine, are really the only ones that work, and keeping that first dark layer very thin for whatever reason works. And I've also found that blacks and bright colors seem to contrast really, really well for this kind of project. So play with it, kind of see what works best for you. The big thing, like I said, is just remember to keep those layers light if you want to get a really good and crisp image for this kind of project. I wish I could tell you the tons of ones that I messed up before I figured out the need to keep that first layer really thin, but that's why I do these videos, so you don't have to do all the mess ups. This one turned out great because it's this really graphic color black with big bold stripes dress, and you can see again, like I said, if it has that great contrast of a light background and bright colors on the front, it transfers really, really well with this technique. I was bummed I had to buy this magazine new because my usual used bookstore is on reduced hours because of COVID, and so I ended up not being able to buy a used magazine like I intended to. So yeah, it made me really sad a little bit to tear this magazine up. But this one turned out really great, really bold, and so I was super excited about it. And we're going to do it one more time. And I'm going to show you what to do if you have something that messes up. Because like I said, there's a chance you're going to mess up this technique because it's definitely not a perfect thing. So I did what I had been doing and just put a layer of black down. And I thought this image would work because she was dark and the background was light. So I gave it the usual kind of rubby-dub, and it did not work, y'all. So I pulled another image. This one was of these bright bangle bracelets, and after pulling it, you can see that worked really well. I don't know if my first layer was too thin, so if you mess up and it doesn't pull the way you want, just try adding some more paint or try adding a different image on top. And so I'm going to pull that one back against this fun coral color, and you're going to see they're going to come, they almost look kind of like bolts. And so you can see that it's take some time, take some play, but it really is a cool and fun, just unique technique. All right, lastly, we're going to play with baby powder. Yes, I know that sounds weird. So we're going to put down a base color. I'm using kind of a yellow ochre kind of color for this and just brayer it across my gel press. I ended up with some yucky chunkies on this paint I hadn't used in a while, so I had to pick those off. And then I'm just going to take plain baby powder. You could also use cornstarch kind of in a little shaker. And what this is going to do, and it sounds weird, it's going to start giving this kind of almost peeled paint, weathered texture, but without really trying too hard. And I think that's super great. So for this particular one, I'm doing 3 layers, sandwiching the baby powder in between them, and just giving it a nice little rub. And you can see it's got great kind of texture and great just kind of grunge if that's your thing. And I wanted to see what it would look like to add, to try to pull that, the ghost print from this image. And so I added a little bit more baby powder and brayering this brown on it. Looks very milk chocolatey. And so you can kind of see it's not quite as textured as the original one, but it still is a great texture. So for this image, I'm gonna try see what it looks like if you had the baby powder first, and then start layering the paints on top of it. And you can also see I'm just for fun trying something different and doing bright colors instead of the more muted colors. I think it would be great to try this with a bunch of metallics just to see if you could get like a really grungy metal kind of effect. I think that would be super fun to try. So I'm just using very tropical colors, so coral, a bright blue, pink, and in a second I'm going to use a lime green. And obviously buy the cheapest baby powder you can. This one was a big thing from Walmart of like 15 ounces for like, I don't know, like $1.46. Or go to the dollar store, because let's be honest, you're never going to use all this unless you have a baby, and I don't. So let's give this one a try. Let's see what bright colors, and starting with the color first, or the baby powder first. So you can see great grunge appeal, which I like. And there are my 3 prints made with baby powder resist. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today for these 3 resist techniques. And don't forget to like and subscribe.